If this great recycling appears everywhere else, why do we assume it suddenly stops with us? Recycling isn't the exception, it's the rule. That perhaps the only thing we truly carry forward is who we become. Good evening and welcome to Evening Communions with Dr. Ken. Peace be with you. Last time we talked about what I believe is one of humanity's greatest illusions, the idea that we're somehow separate from nature. If you spent some time outside after our last conversation, maybe you noticed something. Nature never really stands still. Everything is moving. Everything is changing. Everything is becoming something else. The leaves that fall this autumn become next year's soil. The soil feeds the roots. The roots nourish the tree. The tree produces fruit. The fruit feeds birds, animals, and people. Life continually gives itself back to life. Nothing is wasted. Once you begin looking for it, you see this pattern everywhere. A forest doesn't produce garbage. An ocean doesn't create landfills. Even death, as difficult as it may be for us emotionally, serves life. The fallen tree becomes home for insects. The insects feed birds. The tree slowly returns to the soil that will nourish another forest. Nature has been recycling itself for billions of years, beautifully, quietly, perfectly. And the remarkable thing is it never seems to complain about it. We've become so accustomed to these cycles that we rarely stop to appreciate how extraordinary they really are. Water evaporates, forms clouds, falls again as rain, finds its way back to rivers, and eventually returns to the sea. The seasons come and go. The tides rise and fall. Stars are born. Stars die. Entire galaxies are continually changing. Everywhere we look, nature seems to be saying the same thing. Nothing truly disappears. It changes. It transforms. It participates in something larger than itself. Now, I'd like to ask what might seem like a strange question. If this great recycling appears everywhere else, why do we assume it suddenly stops with us? Not with our bodies. Most people accept that our bodies return to the earth. We understand that the atoms making up your body today have almost certainly belonged to countless other living things before you. Perhaps a tree, perhaps a whale, perhaps someone who lived thousands of years ago. Matter recycles. Science has shown us that much. But what about consciousness? What about the awareness looking through your eyes right now? Why are we so certain that it is somehow exempt from the patterns we observe everywhere else? Now, before anyone misunderstands me, I'm not asking you to believe anything tonight. I'm inviting you to wonder. There's a difference. One of the things I've tried to emphasize throughout these communions is that we shouldn't believe things simply because someone says them, not even because I say them. We should observe, think, reflect, listen to our intuition. Pay attention to the fruits ideas produce in our lives. So let's simply observe together. Everywhere we look in nature, we see cycles: the carbon cycle, the water cycle, the nitrogen cycle, birth, growth, decay, renewal. Recycling isn't the exception, it's the rule. The question becomes, why have we come to believe that consciousness alone follows an entirely different pattern? I suspect part of the answer is that we've become uncomfortable with being part of nature. We'd like to think we're different, special, separate. In part one, I suggested that this may be one of humanity's deepest forms of arrogance. Not arrogance in the sense of pride alone, but in believing we're somehow outside the very system that formed us. We readily accept that our bodies belong to nature. We resist the possibility that our consciousness might as well. Ancient cultures didn't seem to struggle with this idea nearly as much as we do. Whether you study the wisdom traditions of India, the teachings of the ancient Greeks, the Druids, many indigenous cultures, the Essenes, or countless others, you repeatedly encounter the idea that life participates in something much larger than a single lifetime. The details differ, the language differs, but the underlying intuition appears again and again. Life continues. Consciousness evolves. The journey is larger than we imagine. Personally, I've always found that fascinating, not because everyone agreed, they didn't, but because civilizations separated by oceans and thousands of years often arrived at remarkably similar conclusions. That makes me curious, and curiosity, I've learned, is often a wonderful place to begin. What if this life isn't simply a test we either pass or fail? What if it's part of a much larger education? What if every joy, every hardship, every relationship, every success, every failure is shaping something that continues long after this body returns to the earth? If that's true, even if it's only possible, it changes the way we live. Suddenly the question is no longer, how much can I accumulate? It becomes, what am I becoming? And if you've been with me for these communions over the past few months, you probably recognize that question, because we've been circling it again and again. Personal evolution, health, peace, authenticity, thinking before thinking, the world as a mirror. These aren't isolated ideas. They're all pointing toward the same possibility, that perhaps the only thing we truly carry forward is who we become. Thank you for joining me this evening. Hopefully I'll see you again very soon. In the meantime, strive to be intentional in thought, compassionate in word, mindful in deed, simple, innocent, sincere. Peace be with you.